Hey guys, tonight we trudge across the frozen Arctic with your team of sled dogs, where the sun barely peeks over the horizon, and the world is a silent expanse of white. The snow crunches under your boots, the icy wind nips at your cheeks, and the distant silhouettes of icebergs glimmer like ghostly monuments in the cold. You probably won't survive this if you forget one small detail, like feeding the dogs properly, but for now, you're alive, alert, and ready to start the day. The village behind you is still asleep, smoke curling lazily from chimneys, while your breath clouds the air with each exhale. You kneel beside the first dog, checking the harness and ropes that connect the team to the sled. Each knot, each strap, is meticulously inspected. One loose tether could send the sled careening into a fissure in the ice. The dogs shift impatiently, paws scraping the packed snow, tails wagging in quiet excitement, or perhaps mild annoyance at your slow movements. There's a rhythm to this morning ritual, a cadence that has been passed down through generations of Inuit hunters. As you scratch behind the ears of the lead dog, you can almost feel the weight of their ancestors watching over this precise choreography. Historians still argue whether early Inuit dog teams were primarily for hunting or for transport, but what's clear is that their relationship with humans was symbiotic. The dogs depended on you as much as you depended on them. You brush snow off the thick, matted fur of the next dog, noticing a faint scent of seal fat that lingers from last night's meal. Oddly enough, Inuit tradition sometimes used fish heads to keep dogs energetic for long journeys, a quirky detail that would seem strange to outsiders, but works surprisingly well in the Arctic cold. You take a moment to survey the horizon. The ice stretches endlessly, a shifting landscape of ridges and cracks that are both familiar and treacherous. You can almost hear the subtle groan of the frozen sea beneath, a reminder that this frozen expanse is alive, moving imperceptibly with the tides. Every day out here demands vigilance. You check the sled one final time, the wooden runners polished from years of use, and make sure provisions are secured. Even the smallest oversight could mean disaster, though the calm rhythm of the dogs reminds you that the Arctic is also a world of harmony if respected. Your heart beats in quiet sync with the animals, a gentle thrum that steadies your nerves. You whisper instructions, practiced and soft, and the team responds almost instinctively. It's as if they understand the conversation without words. The lead dog's ears perk forward, signaling readiness. You give the nod, and the sled moves, sliding effortlessly over the hard-packed snow. Every movement, every turn, every pause is orchestrated in a dance as old as the frozen tundra itself. You pause briefly at the edge of the village, feeling the cold seep through your boots as you tighten the last harness. The dogs fidget impatiently, noses twitching, tails wagging in subtle arcs that betray their excitement for the journey ahead. Each dog has a role. The lead dog, intelligent and alert, guides the team across shifting ice. The swing dogs maintain the sled's balance during turns. The wheel dogs, strongest of all, bear the brunt of weight during acceleration. You whisper soft commands, almost a murmur, and each dog responds with instinctive precision. Their trust in you is complete, and your reliance on them is equal. It's a partnership forged over countless frozen mornings like this one. Historians still debate the origins of Inuit sled dog practices, with some suggesting that dog teams were first used for long-distance trade before being applied to hunting. But what's undeniable is the meticulous way in which Inuit hunters harnessed knowledge of canine behavior to navigate the unpredictable Arctic terrain. You loop the final strap around a sturdy post on the sled and check the tension. A slack line could cause disaster on thin ice, while one too tight could chafe the dog's skin. You give a small scratch behind the ears of the lead dog, a subtle reminder that you appreciate their loyalty, and the team shifts forward, eager to begin. As you push the sled onto the frozen sea, the ice groans faintly under the weight. You observe the subtle cracks and pressure ridges, learning to read the frozen surface like a living map. Some sections are safe, solid enough to glide across. Others, you've learned, might collapse if stepped on too heavily. One misstep here could lead to a fall into icy water, so your eyes dart constantly, scanning the ice patterns. Quirky as it sounds, Inuit hunters sometimes dropped small stones into fissures to judge depth and stability, a practice that seems almost whimsical, but works incredibly well in practice. Your breath forms clouds in the frigid air, drifting upward and mingling with the soft howl of wind over the ice. You glance back at the village, now a distant smudge against the pale horizon, and a quiet satisfaction fills you. This is the start of another day surviving and thriving in one of the harshest climates on Earth. The sled begins to pick up speed as the dogs sense open space, each paw striking snow with rhythmic precision. You settle into the driver's seat, feeling the subtle vibration of the sled moving over hardened snow, the creak of wood and leather a familiar soundtrack. The team works as a single unit. You give light tugs on the reins, the lead dog adjusts the course, and the others follow without hesitation. The synchronization is beautiful in its simplicity, a silent dialogue between human and animal honed over generations. You note a faint trail of footprints in the snow polar bears have passed through recently, and make mental notes, both for curiosity and survival. Your eyes follow the horizon for the shimmering glint of distant ice ridges, knowing these will provide shelter or obstacles depending on your path. Even now, there's a subtle humor in the routine. One of the dogs tries to chew on a loose strap, and you chuckle softly, shaking your head. "Focus, buddy," you murmur. And he immediately stops, almost embarrassed, as if he understands your gentle scolding. This bond, this understanding, is essential. Without it, the efficiency of the team falters. The Arctic is unforgiving, and a small mistake could escalate quickly. Yet, in these moments, the quiet rhythm, the soft panting of the dogs, and the vast stillness of the ice create a strangely calming ambiance. You think fleetingly of hot chocolate by the fire, something almost laughably luxurious in contrast to your current state. As the sun inches higher, casting pale gold across the frozen expanse, you navigate carefully around a pressure ridge. The sled dips slightly as it crosses, the dogs compensating instinctively. You marvel at their agility and coordination. It's almost like watching a well-rehearsed dance. Every day out here reinforces the connection between human intuition and canine instinct, and you feel gratitude for this ancient knowledge. Inuit hunters have relied on this method for centuries, and yet each journey feels unique. No two mornings, no two ice sheets are exactly alike. By mid-morning, you find a brief stretch of smoother ice, and the team glides effortlessly. You relax slightly, breathing deeply, letting the faint, rhythmic clatter of sled runners against the ice soothe your nerves. There's comfort in repetition, in predictable patterns, even in such an unpredictable environment. You glance at the lead dog, their ears forward and tail low, reading subtle cues in your posture and direction. Communication without words, that's the real skill, and one you continue to refine with each journey. You pause briefly on a raised ice ridge, the sled team waiting patiently as you scan the frozen expanse ahead. The Arctic is deceptive. What looks like solid ground may be a thin crust over shifting water. Your eyes trace subtle color changes in the ice: pale blue cracks, dull white snow, and darker patches where the ice has compressed or thinned. Reading these patterns is an art, passed down through countless generations of Inuit hunters. Even a seasoned traveler could be misled by the ice's illusions, and historians still argue whether early Inuit explorers relied more on instinct or structured observation to traverse the frozen seas. The dogs shift under your hands, sniffing the air, tails flicking with anticipation. You tap lightly on the sled runners, a quiet signal that you're about to move. The lead dog lunges forward, powerful muscles coiling under thick fur, and the team follows in perfect formation. The sled glides over the ice with smooth, practiced ease, and you feel the familiar hum of coordination between you and your canine companions. There's a rhythm here, a silent conversation of tugs, pressure, and movement. Oddly enough, Inuit hunters sometimes sang short, repetitive songs to encourage their teams during long hauls, light-hearted tunes meant to keep morale up, even in the coldest winds. You hum a low, almost imperceptible tune under your breath, and the dogs seem to respond, quickening their pace slightly. As you continue, you notice faint tracks in the snow signs of wildlife that could indicate the presence of seals, foxes, or even polar bears. Following these traces is part science, part intuition. You lean closer to the edge of the sled, scanning for paw prints and scratches, noting their depth and direction. Every pattern tells a story. Seals, for example, leave smooth, elongated marks near breathing holes, while foxes tend to zigzag. You recall a quirky tradition. Some Inuit hunters would leave decoy tracks to confuse predators or rival hunters, a subtle form of snowcraft that blends survival and clever mischief. The wind picks up, carrying the sharp scent of salt and sea ice. It nips at your face and whips through your fur-lined hood, but you barely notice. Your focus is absolute. You adjust the sled slightly, anticipating the incline of a ridge and the potential cracking under weight. Your heart beats in quiet sync with the team, the dogs moving as a single, coherent entity. This seamless coordination isn't accidental. It's the result of years of training, observation, and mutual trust. Historians still argue whether the sled dog teams themselves evolved primarily as hunting aids or as essential transport mechanisms for trade and travel. Regardless, their importance cannot be overstated. Each dog has its personality. The wheel dogs are strong and steady, the swing dogs agile and responsive, and the lead dogs intelligent and intuitive. Your ability to read each dog, to anticipate its reactions, is as vital as reading the ice itself. You glide across a smoother stretch of sea ice, watching the horizon for pressure ridges and thin patches. The light is pale, almost metallic, reflecting off the undulating surface. You feel a thrill in these moments, a mixture of awe and respect for the Arctic's vastness. The sled's runners hum quietly as the dog's paws beat against the packed snow. It's hypnotic, almost meditative. You imagine how many hunters before you have stood in the same spot, tracing these same patterns, learning the secrets of ice and snow. A faint flicker in the distance catches your eye, a reflection on a distant ridge, perhaps sunlight on thin ice, or the glint of a seal breathing hole. You make a mental note to investigate, keeping the team steady. The Arctic is full of subtle hints, and missing one can mean lost opportunity or even danger. You adjust your reins, letting the sled curve gently around a small ridge. The dogs respond instantly, muscles rippling under thick coats. The trust between you and the team feels almost sacred. Even as you navigate, you allow yourself a moment of humor. One of the swing dogs snorts at the snow, sending a small puff into the air, and you can't help but chuckle softly. "Stay focused," you murmur, and the dog seems to puff up, as if acknowledging your gentle rebuke. It's in these small interactions, the quirks of your canine companions, that the monotony of endless ice gains texture, warmth, and a surprising sense of companionship. As the day progresses, you notice the ice shifting slightly beneath the sled. It's subtle, a faint hum in your feet, a whispering of cracks just below the surface. You pause, allowing the team to adjust, reading the subtle signals as instinctively as breathing. Every journey across the Arctic is a blend of precision, intuition, and trust. You lean back slightly, letting the sled glide as the dogs find their rhythm, and feel the quiet satisfaction of a journey unfolding exactly as it should. You pause atop a gentle rise in the ice, the vast frozen landscape stretching endlessly in every direction. Your eyes scan for subtle changes in texture and color blue-gray cracks, thin sheets of snow-dusted ice, and darker patches indicating pressure ridges or thin spots. It's a map written by nature itself, and you've spent years learning to read it. Every line, every hue, tells a story. Some historians still debate whether early Inuit hunters relied more on instinct or methodical observation, but there's no question that reading ice is a skill honed over countless generations. The dogs shift beneath your hands, restless with anticipation. You whisper soft commands, barely audible, and the lead dog leans forward, ears pricked, tail low. The swing dogs adjust their positions instinctively, and the wheel dogs brace against the sled's weight. There's a subtle, almost imperceptible rhythm to their movements, a silent language that communicates everything necessary without sound. You marvel at how each dog has its quirks. One loves to dart ahead, another pauses to sniff the wind, and yet another seems to enjoy spinning in place for a brief moment of comic relief. As you glide forward, you notice tracks in the snow, a trail of footprints left by a seal that must have surfaced nearby. Following these signs requires patience and keen attention. You bend low, leaning slightly off the sled, scanning the snow for more subtle indicators. Small holes where the animal breathed, scattered flakes of snow from sliding movements. There's a quirky Inuit tradition of leaving decoy tracks to mislead predators or rival hunters, a playful tactic that is surprisingly effective, and a reminder that humor and cunning often coexist in survival strategies. The wind rises, carrying the salty tang of the Arctic Sea. It bites your cheeks, whips through the fur lining your hood, and mingles with the rhythmic panting of the dogs. You adjust your grip on the reins and feel the subtle feedback through the sled, the way it glides over hardened snow, the faint vibration that signals a possible crack beneath. Your senses are heightened, every sound and movement noted and catalogued, every instinct engaged. The Arctic is unforgiving, but the partnership between you and your dogs creates a quiet safety, a shared understanding that keeps you moving forward. Historians still argue whether sled dogs were originally bred for hunting, hauling, or both. What's clear is that each dog plays a vital role. Lead dogs provide direction and decision-making. Swing dogs maintain balance and coordination, and wheel dogs bear the brunt of weight during acceleration. Understanding each dog's personality is essential you rely on subtle cues, like a flick of an ear or a slight tug on the harness, to predict reactions. This communication is as crucial as reading the ice itself. You spot a faint glimmer on the horizon, a reflection from a distant ice ridge. Your heart quickens slightly. This could indicate thin ice, a seal hole, or simply sunlight glancing off frozen waves. You adjust the sled carefully, guiding the team to approach the area cautiously. The dogs respond immediately, instinctively compensating for slight shifts in weight and traction. It's a beautiful, silent coordination, one that makes the harsh environment feel almost manageable, almost comforting in its predictability. A soft snort from one of the swing dogs breaks the quiet, sending a puff of snow into the air. You chuckle lightly and whisper, "Focus, buddy," and he trots forward obediently. It's these small quirks that make the journey memorable, infusing moments of levity into the otherwise intense routine. You glance briefly at the horizon, feeling a sense of awe at the vastness of the frozen world, and a quiet pride in the harmony between human, animal, and environment. By mid-morning, you find a relatively smooth expanse of ice. The sled glides effortlessly, runners humming softly as the dog's paws beat in rhythmic precision. You relax slightly, letting the quiet hum of motion soothe your nerves. Every glance, every breath, every shift of the sled is part of a well-practiced dance. Inuit hunters have relied on these techniques for generations, balancing intuition, observation, and instinct to traverse the ever-changing Arctic landscape. The air grows colder as the sun climbs higher, casting long, pale shadows across the ice. You pause briefly to adjust the harnesses, checking that every strap is secure and every knot tight. The dogs shift impatiently beneath you, muscles coiling in anticipation, tails flicking in small arcs of energy. You run your hands along the lead dog's thick fur, feeling the warmth radiate despite the freezing air, and whisper soft encouragement. Each dog has its personality. One playful, one cautious, one almost stubbornly independent. Recognizing these quirks is as important as reading the ice itself. Oddly enough, some Inuit hunters believed that a dog's temperament could predict the day's success. If the lead dog was too excitable, accidents might occur. If too lethargic, the hunt would lag. Historians still debate whether sled dogs were initially bred more for endurance or intelligence, but it's clear both traits are essential. You tighten the sled runners, testing their glide over the ice, and notice a faint shimmer ahead, a thin sheet of newly formed ice. You signal the team, a subtle tug on the reins, and they adjust automatically, moving in perfect unison. The rhythm is hypnotic, a silent language shared between you and the dogs. You lean slightly forward, eyes scanning for cracks and ridges, muscles attuned to every subtle vibration transmitted through the sled. As you traverse a frozen inlet, distant seals scatter on the ice, slipping silently into water-filled breathing holes. You note their patterns, tracking where they might surface next. Every animal movement provides a clue, a piece of the larger puzzle that helps you predict safe paths and hunting opportunities. Some hunters even crafted small decoys or left tracks to confuse prey, a quirky tactic blending playfulness with survival instinct. You smile at the thought, shaking your head at the ingenuity of those who came before, while keeping your focus sharp. Wind gusts whip across the ice, carrying the faint scent of salt and the bracing chill of melting snow. You pull your hood tighter, breath clouding in the cold, and marvel at how the dogs adapt effortlessly. Their paws sink slightly into soft snow, claws digging in when needed, muscles flexing in perfect synchronization. One misstep by either you or them could spell disaster. But years of practice have honed this team into a single, cohesive unit. You can feel the harmony, the subtle sway of the sled, the synchronized breathing, the shared intuition. Historians still argue whether Inuit hunters relied more on memorized routes or environmental cues, but your experience tells you it's a combination. You constantly read the ice, shadows revealing ridges, color changes indicating thin patches, subtle groans beneath the sled hinting at pressure changes. Your senses extend beyond the immediate, predicting shifts in terrain and weather. The dogs respond to your adjustments, leaning into turns, pulling slightly harder, or pacing their strides. You approach a particularly rugged stretch, where ice ridges overlap in jagged patterns. The lead dog hesitates briefly, ears twitching as if calculating the safest path. You offer a gentle nudge with the reins and a soft word of encouragement, and he carefully navigates the obstacles. The swing dogs mirror his movements flawlessly, and the wheel dogs adjust to maintain balance. It's a dance of precision, each member aware of the others, every motion fluid and calculated. A small gust of snow drifts across your path, catching in the low sunlight and sparkling like tiny crystals. One of the dogs snaps at it playfully, and you let out a quiet chuckle. Humor in these moments is rare, but welcome. It lightens the tension and strengthens the bond between you and your team. Even in the harshest environments, these fleeting instances of levity remind you that survival is not just about skill, but also about camaraderie, observation, and understanding. As the morning stretches onward, you spot a faint trail across a distant ridge animal tracks, possibly seals or foxes, leading to a likely hunting spot. You adjust the sled's direction slightly, the dogs responding immediately. Their trust in your judgment is absolute, and your trust in their instincts is equally firm. This mutual understanding, built over years of shared experience, is what allows you to navigate the Arctic safely and efficiently. With the ice stretching endlessly before you, you settle into a rhythm. The sled glides smoothly, runners humming, dogs panting lightly in steady cadence. The vast frozen landscape, initially intimidating, now feels like a familiar, almost comforting expanse. The wind carries the faintest hint of distant ocean, and the sun's reflection off the ice sparkles like scattered diamonds. You take a deep breath, appreciating the quiet, immersive beauty of this frozen world, even as the day's work continues to demand focus and precision. The midday sun hangs low in the pale Arctic sky, casting long shadows that stretch across the ice. You pause briefly to check the dogs, their breaths forming clouds in the crisp air, tails flicking with subtle energy. Each dog has settled into a pattern, their strides synchronized, paws landing with gentle thuds that resonate through the sled. You take a moment to scratch behind the ears of one particularly stubborn swing dog, who nudges your hand affectionately before settling back into formation. This is the rhythm of the journey and unspoken dialogue between you and your team, where instinct and subtle cues guide every movement. Historians still debate the role of oral tradition versus hands-on experience in Inuit hunting practices, but for you, both are vital. You rely on knowledge passed down for generations, learning to read the ice and weather while also responding to the immediate cues of your environment. The ice beneath you is never static. Subtle cracks, pressure ridges, and small holes can appear unexpectedly, and your ability to interpret these changes in real time ensures both your safety and the efficiency of the hunt. Even slight miscalculations can lead to disaster, but years of training have sharpened your instincts to near perfection. Ahead, you spot faint mark tracks left by a seal that must have surfaced recently. You slow the sled, leaning forward slightly to examine the prints. The tracks are delicate and almost fleeting, but to an experienced eye, they tell a story. The seal's movements, the direction of its escape, even the timing of its surfacing can be inferred from these subtle marks. Quirky as it sounds, some Inuit hunters would use sticks to mimic the tracks of prey in the snow, adding layers of deception for both animals and rival hunters. You smile at the thought, appreciating the cleverness embedded in every aspect of survival here. The wind picks up, carrying the briny scent of the ocean across the ice. You adjust the sled slightly, allowing the dogs to compensate as they navigate a subtle incline. The lead dog senses the change instantly, leaning into the shift, while the swing dogs respond with perfect timing to maintain balance. The wheel dogs bear the weight without faltering, muscles rippling beneath thick coats. The precision of the team is mesmerizing, a silent ballet across a frozen landscape. You breathe deeply, letting the rhythmic motion lull your mind into a state of calm awareness. Historians still argue whether Inuit survival relied more heavily on tracking skills or on the innate abilities of sled dogs. Either way, your experience confirms that both are indispensable. Each dog communicates through small movements, subtle shifts in posture, and gentle tugs on the harness. You respond with equally subtle corrections, guiding the team across potentially treacherous terrain. There's a humor in their quirks, too. One dog occasionally spins in place as if amused by the wind. Another insists on sniffing every snowdrift. You chuckle quietly, reminding yourself that even in the harshest environment, moments of levity are possible. You pause briefly to take in the vast expanse of ice. The world stretches endlessly, a tapestry of white and blue, punctuated by distant pressure ridges that rise like frozen mountains. The silence is almost absolute, broken only by the soft panting of the dogs and the subtle hum of sled runners over hard-packed snow. You marvel at how Inuit hunters learned to read these patterns, interpreting the language of ice as a map, a guide, and a warning all at once. The skill is both practical and poetic, a harmony of survival and understanding. One of the swing dogs nudges a small drift of snow, sending a puff into the air, and you can't help but chuckle. "Focus, buddy," you whisper, and the dog resumes its rhythm. These tiny moments of personality and playfulness add texture to the monotony of long journeys, reminding you that the relationship with the dogs is as much companionship as it is practicality. The Arctic is unforgiving, but it is not devoid of warmth when shared with creatures so attuned to your needs and expectations. As the afternoon progresses, you notice the ice ahead starting to crack subtly, a faint blue-gray line creeping across the white expanse. You signal the team to slow, leaning into the reins to guide the sled around the potentially thin section. The dogs respond instantly, instincts honed over countless journeys, ensuring that you avoid danger. Every creak, every subtle vibration beneath the sled is a cue, and you interpret each one with careful attention. The sun begins its slow descent, turning the ice golden in places and casting long shadows across the landscape. You glance at the horizon, where distant ridges shimmer, and appreciate the delicate balance between risk and reward that defines each Arctic journey. The sled glides smoothly, the dog's steady rhythm creating a comforting, almost meditative cadence. In this moment, the harmony between human intuition, canine instinct, and environmental observation becomes almost tangible. a testament to generations of knowledge, trust, and patience. The afternoon air grows crisper as you continue across the frozen expanse, each breath a cloud that quickly dissolves into the Arctic wind. The sled glides smoothly, and the dog's movements are precise, their paws barely making a sound against the packed snow. You lean slightly forward, eyes scanning for subtle changes: thin ice, small ridges, faint tracks left by wildlife. The Arctic is alive in ways the untrained eye cannot perceive. Shifting snow, creaking ice, the faint scent of seals carried on the wind. Each detail could be the difference between a safe journey and disaster. You notice one of the swing dogs playing with a patch of snow, rolling and snapping at the frozen drift. You let out a quiet laugh, shaking your head. "Focus, little one," you murmur, and the dog trots back into formation, though the tail wags betray a mischievous satisfaction. Quirks like this are common among sled teams. Some dogs will intentionally race ahead, testing your patience, while others seem to deliberately sniff every patch of ice, as if they've suddenly remembered a secret only they know. These behaviors, while amusing, also provide a constant reminder that each dog has a mind of its own, and the skill of a hunter lies in harmonizing instinct with intention. Historians still debate how much of Inuit hunting success came from the dog's natural abilities versus the handler's guidance. There's no doubt that the symbiotic relationship was vital. Your hand on the reins is not just control, it is communication. Subtle tugs, light pressure, even shifts in your posture convey complex instructions to the team. The lead dog interprets these signals with near-human intuition, while the swing and wheel dogs adjust instantly, creating a fluid, cohesive movement that allows you to navigate treacherous terrain efficiently. Ahead, faint tracks appear on the snow, small, delicate prints, hinting at a seal that must have surfaced recently. You slow the sled, allowing the dogs to approach cautiously. The tracks are subtle, almost ephemeral, but they tell a story. Direction, timing, weight. Inuit hunters have long relied on these signs to anticipate prey behavior, and you read them instinctively. Some elders even place small markers near previous hunting grounds, a playful yet strategic tactic meant to confuse wildlife and rival hunters alike. You smile at the thought, appreciating the ingenuity of past generations, while keeping every sense tuned to the present. The wind picks up, carrying the crisp scent of melting ice and distant ocean. You pull your hood tighter and adjust the sled's direction as subtle cracks appear beneath the runners. The dogs respond immediately, muscles flexing under thick fur as they navigate the uneven terrain. The harmony between human and canine is almost tangible. Every movement, every breath, every subtle shift is an unspoken conversation. Even in the harsh, silent expanse, this connection provides both security and a strange, meditative comfort. You guide the sled around a particularly jagged ridge, the runners sliding over packed snow and ice with a faint hum. The lead dog hesitates momentarily, ears perked, eyes alert. A gentle tug on the reins, a soft word, and the team flows past smoothly, adjusting naturally to the terrain. The wheel dogs bear most of the weight, leaning into curves with instinctive strength, while the swing dogs keep the sled balanced through every subtle tilt. You marvel at their coordination, a product of training, instinct, and trust. As the sun continues its low arc across the sky, you note distant patches of open water, faintly glimmering in the sunlight. Seals may be near, and you make a mental plan to approach cautiously. Each decision is measured, precise. There's no room for error. You allow the team to pick up a slightly faster pace over a stretch of stable ice, enjoying the steady rhythm of sled, runners, and dogs moving as one. Occasionally, one dog snorts at a patch of snow, sending a puff into the air, and you chuckle softly. Humor and rhythm exist even in this remote and harsh environment, a reminder that survival and companionship go hand in hand. The hours pass in a tranquil rhythm, punctuated by small adjustments, playful quirks, and occasional bursts of energy from the dogs. The Arctic landscape stretches endlessly, a frozen canvas of white, blue, and faint gold as sunlight reflects off the ice. You feel a sense of calm focus, a deep connection with your team, and a profound respect for the land that provides sustenance and challenge in equal measure. Each movement across the ice is purposeful, each decision grounded in generations of knowledge, observation, and intuition. The late afternoon sun casts long, golden streaks across the ice, illuminating the subtle textures and ridges that define the Arctic landscape. You guide the sled with careful precision, eyes scanning for faint cracks and thin patches that might betray hidden dangers beneath the snow. The dogs respond instantly to your slightest movements, the gentle tug of a rein, a whispered command, a subtle shift in your posture. Their instincts are honed through countless journeys, yet each day brings a unique set of challenges. Even now, small quirks emerge. One dog pauses to sniff a drift of snow. Another trots slightly ahead, tail flicking as if marking an invisible rhythm. You smile quietly. These moments of character lend life to the otherwise monochromatic wilderness. Historians still debate whether Inuit hunters relied more on innate canine intelligence or human training, but it's clear that both were crucial. The dog's sensitivity to subtle environmental cues, combined with the guidance of an experienced handler, created a seamless partnership. As you traverse a slightly rougher stretch of ice, the sled bumps gently over a low ridge, and the wheel dogs brace instinctively, absorbing the impact with practiced ease. The lead dog adjusts its pace, subtly guiding the team around a thinner patch of ice. You feel the sled's vibration through your hands and feet, reading it like a second heartbeat, a rhythm as old as the Arctic hunts themselves. You spot a faint trail leading toward an opening in the ice, likely a seal breathing hole. The dogs sense it too, noses twitching, ears pricked. Tracking prey is as much about patience as it is about speed. You slow the sled, letting the team approach carefully, observing subtle animal behaviors and environmental clues. In a quirky tradition, some Inuit hunters would mark previous seal locations with small ice sculptures or snow markers to maintain a mental map, blending practicality with creativity. You appreciate the ingenuity while keeping your focus sharp. Own misstep here could compromise the hunt. The wind picks up, carrying a sharp, briny scent of the open sea. Snow drifts swirl in the air, glittering in the fading sunlight. You tighten your parka hood and adjust the sled's angle, letting the dogs compensate instinctively for the uneven terrain. Their movements are fluid, a harmony of strength and coordination that makes the frozen expanse feel almost navigable. Each dog understands its role. The lead dog reads the path and signals direction. The swing dogs maintain balance during turns, and the wheel dogs provide steady propulsion. The unspoken dialogue between human and canine is subtle, yet profound, forming a bond that allows both parties to survive and thrive in a harsh environment. Historians still argue about how early Inuit hunters learned to interpret subtle environmental cues. Some suggest oral transmission of ancestral wisdom was primary, while others claim hands-on experience in extreme conditions was the key. You rely on both. Stories passed down from elders mingle with real-time observations, guiding every movement of the sled. Even the faintest color change in the ice, a slight depression, or a subtle scent in the wind can provide crucial information. Your senses are finely tuned, a combination of knowledge, intuition, and trust in your canine companions. As dusk begins to creep across the horizon, the ice glows with muted pinks and purples, and the wind softens slightly. You note distant pressure ridges, potential shelter or obstacles depending on your route. The dog's movements remain synchronized, and the sled glides with a gentle hum over the hard-packed snow. Small quirks still surface. One dog playfully snorts at a patch of snow, and another shifts slightly, as if reminding you it exists. You chuckle softly, whispering encouragement to keep the team focused. Even in these extreme conditions, these subtle interactions create a sense of warmth, companionship, and continuity. Tracking and navigating wildlife signs continues. You follow the seal tracks, anticipating the next surfacing point, careful not to disturb the fragile snow crust that could hide a thin layer of ice beneath. Every step is measured, every movement deliberate. The harmony between dogs, sled, ice, and hunter reaches a near-perfect equilibrium, a rhythm built on experience, observation, and trust. Each moment reinforces the intricate balance required to live, hunt, and survive in the Arctic wilderness. By the fading light of late afternoon, you have traversed miles of ice, reading its subtle signals, following animal traces, and maintaining the delicate synchronization of the dog team. The Arctic stretches endlessly, its beauty both serene and formidable. You glance briefly at the horizon, appreciating the vast silence, the interplay of light and ice, and the quiet triumph of another successful day in harmony with nature, dogs, and ancestral wisdom. The Arctic sky begins to deepen into shades of indigo and violet as dusk settles over the ice. You guide the sled carefully, tracing your path back toward the village. The snow crunches softly under the runners, a gentle rhythm that blends with the panting of your dogs and the whisper of wind across the frozen landscape. Every ridge, crack, and fissure is familiar now, mapped in memory from countless journeys. Even so, you remain vigilant, scanning the ice for subtle changes that might have occurred during the day. The Arctic is deceptively quiet. Its silence is not peace, but a constant test of awareness and patience. Historians still argue whether Inuit hunters relied primarily on instinct or learned observation for safe navigation across sea ice. Your experience confirms it is a delicate combination. Intuition honed by generations of oral knowledge, sharpened by direct experience and careful attention to environmental cues. You adjust the sled slightly, leaning into a shallow curve, and the lead dog shifts accordingly, the swing and wheel dogs compensating in perfect synchronization. The sled hums quietly as it glides over hardened snow, a comforting sound in the deepening twilight. As you pass a distant pressure ridge, the golden light of the sun reflects off the ice, creating a faint shimmer that hints at thin patches. You slow the sled slightly, guiding the dogs with gentle tugs on the reins. The team responds instantly, instinctively adjusting their pace and stride. One of the swing dogs pauses briefly, sniffing at the wind, and you chuckle softly. "Always curious," you whisper. These small moments of personality break the monotony of long journeys, reminding you that survival is both skill and companionship. Ahead, you notice faint tracks of wildlife, a fox, or perhaps a seal crossing your path. Following them is part instinct, part learned skill. Every mark in the snow tells a story, the direction, speed, and behavior of the animal. Inuit hunters often incorporated such details into their planning for future hunts, storing knowledge in memory rather than on paper. Quirky as it may sound, some hunters even left small symbolic markers near tracks to remember successful hunting routes, blending observation, intuition, and mnemonic aids. The Arctic wind shifts slightly, carrying the scent of distant open water. You tilt the sled subtly to compensate, and the dogs adjust instinctively, muscles rippling beneath thick fur. The wheel dogs bear the weight effortlessly, the swing dogs stabilize, and the lead dog continues to guide with steady confidence. This silent, seamless coordination is the hallmark of a well-trained team. Each member knows its role, and you know theirs. Trust and communication flow invisibly through the harnesses and reins, a shared language of movement and instinct. Historians still debate the precise origins of Inuit sled dog traditions, but the importance of teamwork is undeniable. The survival of both human and canine depends on this coordination. You glance briefly at the horizon, noting ice patterns that might indicate cracks or pressure shifts. Every step is cautious, every movement deliberate. The Arctic is beautiful, but unforgiving, and mistakes here can have serious consequences. Yet, there is comfort in the rhythm of sled, dogs, and ice, a meditative cadence that allows your mind to stay both alert and calm. As the sky darkens further, the sled glides over a particularly smooth stretch. The runners hum softly, and the dogs' breaths are steady and measured. You take a deep, slow breath, appreciating the quiet majesty of the frozen expanse. Even in this desolate, harsh environment, there is a strange serenity, a reminder that patience, observation, and careful partnership allow life to persist in the most extreme conditions. You glance at the lead dog, ears forward and posture confident, and feel a swell of gratitude. The team has carried you safely, intuitively, and with playful quirks that lighten the long hours. The village lights begin to glimmer faintly in the distance, a reassuring reminder of warmth, food, and rest. You allow the sled to coast gently, easing tension from both your body and the dogs. The Arctic has tested you today, and the team has responded flawlessly. These journeys are as much about endurance and skill as they are about trust, companionship, and subtle understanding. You reflect on the quiet lessons of the ice, patience, observation, and the symbiotic relationship between humans and animals in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Every moment now is measured, deliberate, a rhythm that carries you safely toward home. The dog's movements remain fluid, instinctive, almost meditative in their perfection. You notice the faint shimmer of thin ice one last time, adjusting slightly to avoid it, and feel the quiet satisfaction of a day spent harmoniously with nature. Each ridge, each crack, each gentle slope reinforces the knowledge passed down over generations, the subtle wisdom of Inuit hunters who relied on observation, intuition, and their loyal dog teams to survive. The sky is painted in deep indigo as you approach the outskirts of the village, where smoke curls lazily from chimneys and faint lights flicker behind small windows. The journey has been long, but the sled glides smoothly now over familiar ice paths. Your dogs move in quiet harmony, tails swishing gently, ears alert yet relaxed. They know the route home almost instinctively, guided by scent, memory, and experience. You allow a moment of quiet reflection, feeling the subtle hum of the sled beneath your hands, the soft panting of your companions, and the whispering Arctic wind as a soothing rhythm. Historians still debate the extent to which Inuit hunting knowledge was codified versus transmitted orally, but there is no doubt that lessons were embedded in practice. Every frozen ridge, every subtle crack, and every paw print carries a story, a hint, a guide to safety. As you guide the sled around the last minor ridge, you adjust your reins gently, signaling the team to slow. Their response is immediate muscles tense and relax in perfect coordination. This delicate interplay between human and canine is the culmination of the day's efforts, the product of shared trust and mutual understanding built over years of training. As you near the village, the dog's behavior changes slightly. They perk up, energy renewed at the sight of familiar shelters and warm resting spots. You laugh softly at one dog who suddenly spins in place, excited to return. Quirks like these are charming reminders that even in the harshest environment, personality and playfulness persist. You make mental notes to feed them extra tonight, rewarding their loyalty and effort. Feeding and grooming the dogs is more than routine. It is part of the bond that ensures the efficiency and reliability of the team. You reach the village proper, the ground firmer now beneath the sled. The ice transitions into packed snow and gravel as you glide past small homes. Children wave from the windows, dogs bark in greeting, and elders nod as you pass. The calm of evening settles around you. You begin to unharness the dogs, carefully loosening each harness, checking for chafing, and brushing off the remnants of snow and ice. Each dog receives attention, a gentle scratch, a quiet word, a bit of warmth after the long day. Historians still argue about the methods used to maintain sled dogs historically. Some assert strict routines were essential. Others highlight the balance of discipline and kindness. Your own approach is a blend. Firm guidance during the journey, coupled with care and respect afterward. Grooming is important. Clean paws, brushed fur, and fed bellies ensure that tomorrow's journey will begin smoothly. You adjust the sleeping area, laying down blankets and securing small shelters to protect the dogs from the night's chill. As night deepens, you take a brief walk around the village perimeter, checking ice for any new hazards and surveying the surrounding landscape. The Arctic night is quiet, almost hypnotic, punctuated only by distant animal calls or the whisper of wind across the ice. You reflect on the day, early morning harnessing, hours of careful navigation, wildlife tracking, and the subtle quirks of your team. It has been a day of coordination, observation, and mutual trust, a demonstration of survival, skill, and companionship at its most refined. Finally, you settle inside your own shelter, the warmth of the fire contrasting with the chill outside. The dogs curl around you or into their small enclosures, breathing steadily and peacefully. You take a deep breath, feeling the tension of the day ease. Tomorrow will bring another journey, another challenge, and the constant dance with ice, wildlife, and the elements. But for now, there is rest, a moment to reflect, to bond, and to let the rhythm of sled and dogs fade into the quiet of night. The Arctic is harsh, yet these routines, the care, observation, and companionship transform it into a realm of subtle beauty and profound satisfaction. You watch your team slowly drift into sleep, the sled secured, the ice stretching silently beyond the village. The lessons of the day, the quirks of the dogs, and the wisdom of generations settle around you, reminding you that survival is as much about patience, care, and trust as it is about skill. You lie down beside the dogs, closing your eyes. The Arctic night hums softly, a lullaby of ice, wind, and the steady breaths of loyal companions. You are tired, fulfilled, and ready to rise again with the dawn, knowing that this quiet, intricate dance of human, animal, and environment will continue as it always has, timeless, patient, and endlessly rewarding. The night stretches softly over the Arctic, and you feel the tension of the day dissolve with every slow, steady breath. Your dogs are nestled close, their warmth seeping into your frozen limbs, their rhythmic breathing creating a gentle cadence that lulls your mind into calm. The ice beyond the village shimmers faintly under the pale moonlight, a world of quiet mystery and gentle motion, reminding you that the frozen expanse is alive, but patient and forgiving when approached with respect. You reflect on the subtle harmony of the day, the silent guidance of the sled dogs, the careful reading of ice and tracks, the playful quirks that brought smiles even in a harsh environment. As you lie there, warmth radiating from the dogs and your fur-lined clothing, the Arctic night becomes a quiet companion. Every crack in the ice, every glimmer of distant light, every subtle whisper of the wind fades into the background, leaving a gentle hum that soothes rather than alarms. You think of the knowledge passed down through generations show hunters learned to observe, adapt, and thrive with patience and attentiveness. That wisdom now lives in you, carried forward in rhythm with your companions, every action part of a timeless cycle. Slowly, your thoughts drift like snowflakes in the wind. The sled, the dogs, the endless ice, they exist as part of a larger, quiet world, one that doesn't demand attention, but rewards awareness. You feel gratitude for the bond with your team, for the lessons of observation, patience, and respect. The Arctic becomes a lullaby, the rhythm of life and survival, blending into a soothing, whisper-soft symphony. Your eyes close fully now, body and mind relaxing completely. The day ends not with triumph or noise, but with quiet contentment. The Arctic night cradles you. The dogs breathe steadily beside you, and the ice stretches endlessly, serene and unwavering. Tomorrow will come, with its own challenges and rhythms, but for now, everything is still, soft and gentle. You are safe, warm, and deeply at peace.